Good evening. Thanks for joining us again. It's another Thursday. These Thursdays seem to be coming around pretty quick now. At least we have a little more daylight. For those that might be new, I'm Tom Laskowski. I run Midwest Native Skills. We're located here in Northeast Ohio, and I run a outdoor self-reliance and wilderness school for the last 23 years. And this time of year, we're just getting ready for our upcoming season. This is the time of year we really get into high gear for the classes coming up. We just had our homesteading class of soap making, wine making, cheese making, and canning, and that was very successful last weekend. We had a lot of good time with that, and we're going to be coming up with our edible and medicinal plant classes in May. In fact, the first class is nearly filled up. We still have a little room, and we are going to add a second class in mid-May there. So it's May 14th is the one that's almost full, and we're going to add another one May 15th, which will be on the one we're adding is on a Sunday. So if you're anywhere near Northeast Ohio, but we get people from Pennsylvania, Southern Ohio, even Michigan and Indiana coming up here. So it's a one-day class from 9 to 4, so you're welcome to come on up. After that, our weekend survival class is nearly full, but we will be taking a waiting list for that class, and I think there's one or two more slots left in that before we start putting people on the waiting list. And our full week survival class, we have that open. That's going to be mid-June, June 14th through whatever the next 6 days are, the 20th, I believe. And that'll be, again, here right in Northeast Ohio. And for those of you that have taken some survival or you have a bug out bag, at the end of July we're having a special class this year. This is going to be our bug out challenge, where you're going to bring your bug out class to a location, and you're going to actually live out of your bug out bag, and we're going to have some exercises you can go through just to see how prepared your bug out bag is for some safe but real life situations. And you get to live out of your bug out bag and try some of that equipment that might still be in the cellophane container. So that's going to be a fun class. It's a chance to test yourself, but more to test your equipment and your skill with your equipment. So it's not a class to embarrass you, it's a class for you to learn what you might want to replace in your bug out bag, and what you might want to add, but moreover what you might want to jettison from that bag and make it just a little bit lighter. So if you're new, please give us a comment there. There's a little bit of a lag, about a 15-20 second lag. So if I don't respond right away, it's because of the lag going through the internet. But I'd like to know who's out there so I can give you a shout out. And I'd love your questions. Our topic today, you probably saw on Facebook, is active shooter from a survival perspective. But rather than just dwelling on that, that's where we're going to start out. I'd like to talk a little bit more about invisibility. And I'm not talking about anything weird like dematerialization, but just being invisible in a situation. And then I want to go into a little bit of camouflage, both in an urban setting, but then also in the woods, if you're a hunter or just like to walk in the woods and see more animals. So we'll talk a little bit about camouflage, so it'll all fit together here. So, anybody online yet, Jill?
Wendy and James has signed up for your bug out bag
Yes,
class.
he has, James. You're going to have a good time in that class. James has taken several of the classes, so I'm expecting him to be a shining example for the bug out class. So we'll have fun, and well, James knows me. He knows I'll have some surprises in the class, so it'll be quite interesting. Okay, let's get started with an active shooter situation. The reason Wendy and I were talking about what we're going to do for this weekend, and with the shooting we had in Colorado, naturally we had the school shootings, and shootings are, we had the one down in Georgia. So we thought maybe addressing this topic might be appropriate for this Thursday. And they're popping up everywhere. You never know where it's going to happen. And I'm not going to get into the aspect of whether you should carry a gun or any of that. That'll be your decision, or maybe even for another topic. But mainly, what you might want to think about before you get into that situation, and I want to share my experience. This past year, I had the opportunity to take some ALICE training, and that's an active shooter training class, where I was lucky enough to go to take the training, and they actually put you in a situation. We were actually in a school, and they had law enforcement teach the class, but then they also had several of the officers be active shooters. They had the airsoft guns, they had flashbangs, they had the shooters going through the school with blanks, so you actually heard gunfire. And I'd want to share that experience, because what I thought what I would do probably would have gotten me killed. And it was a very good experience, and I wanted to share that with you. But a few things about an active shooter situation. Naturally, you'll never know when you're going to be in one. It's kind of like taking your survival kit. You can't prepare for that. And I'm just going to be plain and honest. If you're ever in that situation, it's going to be a bad day. And there are going to be no rules on your end for that. You're going to have a person coming in with a weapon intent on killing people. And people will die. There's no doubt about it. What we're going to hope, the best we're going to hope for, is minimizing how many people are going to die. And hopefully, we're going to do things to have you or myself not one of those people that are going to die. I made some notes here so I wouldn't, like I said, this ALICE training was a whole day class, so there was quite a bit of information. I didn't want to miss anything out. But one thing you want to do, and I do this whenever I go into a building, I'm looking for where are some of the escape routes, which way out of a room. And right away, if ever I talk to someone, they say, oh, you're paranoid, you're worried about people getting you, you're looking for escape routes. It's not like that. You walk in a room, glance around, okay, there's a doorway, there's a doorway. You just make a mental note. It's not something that occupies my life. It's just making a mental note. Again, those of you that take in our class, we talk about awareness. We go through awareness exercises. We talk about things like wide-angle vision. It's just being aware of your surroundings, but make note, okay, there's a door in case I need it, for a variety of reasons. But you just make notes what's around you. Personally, I never like to sit with my back to the door. They used to do that in the Old West all the time. But it's just a preference of mine. Now, if I sit with my back to the door, I don't make a big deal of it. I just deal with it. But if I have a preference, I like to be able to see the door, to see who's coming in or out, to see what's happening behind me. But always look around for what's around you. So if you go into a room, make it a habit. Just where are the exits in case you have to ever use one. First thing they say, always determine a reasonable way to protect yourself if you have to. Now, if you're going to have that attitude, if you have a plan, people will sense that, and people are going to tend to follow you. So you're going to automatically become the leader. So just be aware of that. If you start doing something, going a certain way, you're probably going to have people following you on that. In the past, they were saying, they had different schools of thought on what you should do. The current school of thought is get the heck out of Dodge. Evacuate the building, especially if you know where the shooter is. If there's some announcement over the loudspeaker, or you actually hear shots at the other end of the building you're in, and you're in this end and there's a door over there, get that door, leave the building. Evacuate. That's what the current thing is. So hiding is not the first thing, evacuate is the first thing you want to do. So you have your escape route planned. You walk into the room, whatever you're doing, a restaurant or whatever, you know where the exits are. Some commotion's going on the far side. You know there was an exit there. You say, we're going here, and people are going to follow you, and you're probably going to be responsible for saving several lives because the people will follow you. Now, you need to evacuate regardless of what the others around you do. If the others are going to be frozen there, too scared to move, whatever their situation is. Say, let's go. If they don't go, you need to get your loved ones and get them out, or
You need a little more light
you
outside.
need to protect your own life.
So Adam
Get out and guard yourself.
suggested after you apply the mud,
If someone has
if you roll in a little bit of
injuries
debris,
or
it causes a
crippled
3D
by some
effect
reason,
because you're
you
picking
can
up leaves
try
and
to
small
help them
sticks.
out if you can,
Awesome.
without
Awesome
slowing
tip.
yourself down
That tip's worth its weight in
That would
gold.
be a nice
Yep.
thing to do. But
Especially
again,
leaves.
you need to protect your own life for your family. It's
Yep.
not a selfish thing, but your family needs to do it. So,
That tip Adam just gave you guys is what people take years to
try
learn.
to prevent others
He just gave you a gem there.
from going to where the shooter is. You can
That's
yell
a-
out,
that's a
"The
secret
shooter's
that
there,
you're
let's go
passing
this
you."
way." That would be a good Samaritan thing to do to try to.
Oh, by the way, when you're actually in a serious
Once you
situation,
get outside,
you're just not doing your
you're not
face.
trying to hide anymore.
You're
the
doing
only people
your
outside would be police
inside of your
officers.
ears, you're
Make sure
doing
you
your
keep your hands visible.
eyes, you're
If
doing
you look like a
inside and around.
They don't
You're
know.
doing
They know there's
both
a
sides
shooter
of your
there,
hands.
somebody with a gun,
You're doing
and some person is
the
running
crack of your
after
butt.
them.
You're getting mud
Make
everywhere.
sure, once you're outside the building,
There's
keep
nothing
running
that's
away
not
from the
mud.
building, make sure your hands are
And
visible so they know
wood ash.
that.
You want to use the
on top of your head,
black
whatever.
wood ash,
Yes,
you don't want to use the
it's
white wood
running
ash.
street.
The white wood
It'll
ash,
probably save your life.
first of all, it's not going to really add
Keep your
too
hands
much to
visible
your
once
color,
you get out of the building.
but it also
Then
has sodium
roll the
hydroxide
shot
in
the
it.
direction that you then
For
follow.
those of you that didn't do well in chemistry, sodium hydroxide goes by
Common
another
sense
name,
things and
lye. We used it to make our soap.
just things to keep
And
in
when
mind.
it's lye and
Might
water,
hurt, they'll stick in the back of
It
your
becomes
head.
very hot very
Ever,
quickly.
um,
Hot enough to burn
have
your
to do
skin.
it. There'll be some.
So if you
One
put
thing
this
that's
white
surprising
wood
me
ash,
is
which
that do
has
not attempt
sodium
to
hydroxide or
remove
lye in it, and you
that's
start
the
sweating,
EMS.
that's water, you're
it's gonna
mixing
slow you
the
down
lye
too
with
much.
water on your skin, you could get
Even if you have
burns.
medical training, you probably don't
Probably
have
not
the
worse than
equipment
first degree burns, but they
to
just
do anything significant.
A lot of
I'm sure you
people
can
like
put
wood ash
pressure on the wound and stop
stick with
bleeding,
white stuff.
but for how long, that would
Anyone
probably
else?
give the shooter enough time to get to you. Then you
Well,
would
that's
be
it,
okay.
I'm trying to think what else,
Try to help.
Wendy told us about, we
And
talked
then
about.
if you are the first one out or
Wendy's
whatever,
posted
if you have a
links
phone,
to
I can
the
naturally call
classes.
911.
Okay, so we
Probably
did the
911.
bug out class, we did the
Dozens
week-long
of
class, we're gonna put up another
So call 911.
edible medicinal plant class, we talked about
Now,
the short videos.
Say you're in the building.
Ask
let's
you
go to
guys
the
to
next
tell me
page. You're in
what
the
other
building
things you want us to do on
and
Facebook Lives.
Can't get out.
That's about it.
Bad situation.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with a
Yeah.
topic that
But
you wrote in and told me you want to hear about.
you have to
So,
hide out.
Have a good Easter,
So if
and
evacuation
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
hiding out. Where should you hide? First place, we're gonna talk about dead space in a second, but I just wanna go through the Alice training. Hide naturally out of the shooter's view. You have to provide protection from where the shots are being fired. So if you do go into an office, naturally you have to barricade the doors. So first thing you're gonna do is put desks or something to barricade the doors. A lot of doors have the scissors closure on top. If you can somehow lock that closed, because if a door doesn't have a physical lock on it, you can take off your belt, and we did this in the training, and it works pretty well. You take your belt and wrap it around that scissors opening and make it as tight as you can, or several people's belts, and that'll inhibit that door from wanting to open. You do that, you put a couple desks in front of that door, it's going to be extremely hard, if not impossible, to open that door. You're going to turn the lights off, so if the shooter looks in, they can't see anything. And you're going to be out of the way of the door, so if they shoot through the door, you're going to be behind a wall or something out of the shooter's view. Blockade the door with heavy furniture, lock the door. Now, if the active shooter is nearby, and as we lock the door, silence your phone or your pagers. Well, we don't have pagers anymore, but silence your phone, because if you're being silent, shooter looks in, see knows what, no one's in the room, and all of a sudden your phone goes off, your loved one's calling you to see if you're okay. The shooter goes, oh, somebody's in there. So silence any telephones you have. Turn off any source of noise, radios, televisions, whatever. Remain calm. Sure, you're going to be remain calm if you can. But one thing I learned from this training, and I'm going to go into that in a second, grab something to throw at the shooter. If you have something around you, if there's desks around, grab staplers and grab more than one thing. If you have several people in a room, that's going to be your best bet, because if the shooter does get in the room, and this was proven to me through my Alice training, the shooter comes in and okay, he's going to start picking off people. You start throwing things at him, and you say, well, I have nothing. You have 2 shoes. Those are 2 things to throw at him. You have 10 people in the room. That's 20 shoes. Now, you don't want to throw them all at once. If you could stagger that a little bit, so the guy has maybe 10 seconds of shoes being thrown at his head, he's not going to be able to maintain an aim. He's going to be ducking his head, because that's your first reaction. If a shoe or a stapler or a coffee cup or you name it is coming at your head, what are you going to do? You're going to duck. You're not going to be aiming a rifle or a handgun at what you're shooting. So if you have 10 seconds of that, and now again you have no way to evacuate, while the shooter's ducking, you're going to have some people charge the shooter. And actually, you're going to have all 10 people charge the shooter. 10 on 1, you're going to win. I don't care how big the guy is, I don't care how mean looking he is. And when you're charging the shooter, remember the old Indians, when they used to do the attack, they had the whooping calls and yells and stuff? That was a purpose. In the Civil War, the South, they had the rebel yell. It disorients the person when you're coming at them screaming and yelling, and it just does. The cops use flashbangs. That bang disorients people, and the flash naturally disorients them. So when you're throwing your shoes, the guy's ducking, you're going to be yelling at the top of your lungs. Pretend you're an Indian. Use every cuss word you can think of, but it's got to be at the top of your voice, and you're coming at this guy to kill him. Ladies, you're thinking, well, I'm not as strong as a guy. You have nails. You're going to go right at his eyes, and you're not going to be scratching him. You're going to be taking his eyes out of his head. And if you're thinking, well, gee, I can't do that, well, then you're probably saying, well, then I guess I'm resolved to be one of the, or more likely to be one of the casualties. So remember, all bets are off. This is a serious situation, so you have to get out of your normal, prim and proper, normal, politically correct self, and you're in a survival mode. So, you're throwing things at this guy. At the same time, you're coming at him, tackle him, get him on the ground, and then you're going to beat the hell out of him. And hopefully you can pick up some of the shoes, and you're going to use those as weapons, and this guy's wishing he'll never was born. Mike Tyson has a real good saying that a friend of mine just reminded me of when I told him I was doing this. Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's something to remember. So this shooter, he's got a great plan, but as soon as he gets punched in the face by you and your friends around you, his plan just went out the window. So when you're in that situation, that's your plan. We went over that, and again, we kind of went over this. Take action against the shooter as a last resort, only when your life is imminently in danger. The guy's in the room, your life's in danger. Act as aggressively as possible, throw items and improvise weapons, yell, and you have to commit to your action. There's no hesitation. Probably most of you know where most accidents happen on the road if you're driving a car, if you're pulling out into traffic, is when that person hesitates and has a second thought when they're pulling out. That's when the accidents happen. When you commit to go after that shooter, you commit, and you're going to be scared, but that's a good thing, because that means the adrenaline's flowing. So, those are some of the things that are going to happen. Now, my experience there in this active shooter situation, I was in a room with probably 12 other people, and we heard the shots, and that's the first thing that surprised me, because I'm used to guns, I'm used to hearing gun noise, but whenever I'm hearing guns, hearing the noise, I usually have a weapon in my hand or a weapon around me. I'm expecting it. I mean, that's the situation. But mostly I have a weapon with me or around me. There, I had no weapon, and I heard shots, and the first thought was, this is a real situation, and I'm unarmed. And I felt very vulnerable in that. Then when the door, it just didn't open, it was cracked open a little, and the perpetrator, the cop, kicked the door open, and it comes and slams, and that bang noise, it just startles you, and kind of it froze me for a second, and I was expecting it. Had this airsoft gun, and you see this gun pointed at you, and there was no time. He started shooting. So you're actually frozen for a second, and my plan was to go, and I had time to think, to move across, and by the time I started to move across, I felt like a duck at a carnival going across there, and I didn't have anything to throw in my hand, because this is before they told us what to do the very first time. And the things I was hiding behind, if he had a rifle, they would have went right through the rifle, right through the desks I was hiding behind, and I would have been a dead man. So it was a real eye-opening situation. Now the next time, a very similar thing happened, and we were throwing things at the cop, and we were throwing books and heavy things, and he was gear and stuff, so it was a pretty real situation. And he was actually trying to be aggressive, but by instinct he was ducking, and we managed to just swarm him and get his airsoft gun away from him, and so it actually does work. But you just can't sit there. You have to be aggressive. You have to be more aggressive than your attacker. So, okay, so that's active shooter, how you can survive that situation. Let's talk a little bit about becoming invisible. In my classes, in my survival classes, but especially in the escape evasion classes, we talk about something called wide-angle vision. And just real briefly, some of you might do this already. There's two types of vision. It's where you stare at something, we call that tunnel vision, and it's where you relax your eyes and you can use your peripheral vision to see what's around you. So right now I'm looking at the camera, but I can very clearly see the lights on either side of me. I can see the plants here. I can see Cheryl behind the camera. I can see down here. It's not perfectly clear, but I can still see, and you can see movement. That also masks I like to say your humanness, because we all felt somebody stare at you in a restaurant or in a room. That's because they're in tunnel vision, and we're just inherently programmed to feel that, because in the wild, when that hawk is eyeing up that mouse or that rabbit, he locks in on it with tunnel vision, because he's going to grab it with his talons and have it for dinner. So something inside of us are alert, because we're basically animals down to the core. So we're just aware when that animal or thing locks into us on the tunnel vision. So if we're in wide-angle vision, that alarm doesn't go off. So if you're in wide-angle vision, other people don't notice you as much, you can say. You can try this anytime. I tell people in our classes, after class, go to a park or someplace where there's a path. Just step off the path, take a breath to relax yourself, maybe take 3 or 4 steps off the path, and just stand there. You don't have to, not behind anything, just maybe next to a tree, and go in this wide-angle vision, and you'll see people walk right by you and not even notice you're there. It's kind of fun to do. But that's one way to make yourself less noticeable. Another trick you can do, say we're like in this grocery store in Colorado, and you couldn't escape, and there was really no place to hide. You're really screwed. Okay. This takes a little bit of practice, but wherever you are watching this Facebook Live, if you right now just scan nice and slowly around the room that you're sitting in with your eyes. Start in one area and just scan slowly. Let your eyes scan all the way around the room. Take your time, no hurry. Just all the way around the room. Now let me ask you, when you did that, was it a very smooth motion? Or did your eyes jump from one thing to another? Very typically, your eyes jumped. Your eyes tend to jump to verticals. So if there was an edge of a windowsill to the edge of a picture frame, to the edge of your TV, to the edge of a doorway, to the edge of a picture case or a bookcase, that's where your eyes typically jump to. The space in between there is called dead space. Your eyes jumped over it. It scanned right over it. It didn't notice it. So if you want to remain invisible, hide in the dead space. Because if someone's looking for you, and they scan a room, where are their eyes going to go? Same place yours go. They're going to go from vertical to vertical to vertical to vertical to vertical to vertical. And they're going to miss the dead space in between. It's that simple. So hiding isn't that hard. Now, just hide where people don't look. Takes a little bit of practice, because right now you're saying, okay, it kind of sounds funny. You practice, and you can practice this anyway. You go to the grocery store, you go to a restaurant, you go to your friend's house. Just see where the dead space is. And you can even try it sometime. You can actually, if you go to a party or whatever, scan a room, and then you can say, okay, there's kind of a dead space between some verticals. I'm just going to stand there with my drink or whatever and see how many people come up to you or how many people just kind of pass by you, and see if you are ignored more by standing in the dead space. It's just a game you play. But it's practice, and you can then, after just a little while, you'll be able to just go into a place and, okay, there's dead space, there's dead space. You can just spot it. So if you're in that grocery store in Colorado and a situation happens, you can spot dead space. And even though you can't escape and there's no place to hide, you can hide in plain sight, and you're increasing your chances of survival. It takes a little bit of pre-planning, but your life's worth it. And it's fun to do. So those are a few things you might want to work on. But hiding in plain sight is an awful lot of fun. Okay, camouflage. Do we have anybody else out there, Cheryl, or is it just James? Is Paul with us?
Nope. Nathan, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa. I still owe you a phone call. Paul just had a birthday, so I know that. So I was going to wish Paul a belated birthday, but he's probably in the woods making fires or something. Okay, let's talk a little bit about camouflage clothing. First thing, let's talk about urban camouflage. If I wear this to Walmart, I'm going to look like a Rambo and stand out like a sore thumb. So we're not going to talk about that yet. But you want to wear things, earthy, neutral colors, khaki things. So I would blend in to a Walmart, blend in to a grocery store. But also if I go into the woods, I blend in to the woods. Here is one of Cheryl's, what do you have? Oh yeah, this is a great color. This sweater, you can just wear this as a sweater, and I'm not sure how good this is going to pick up color. You can wear this, nobody thinks that this is a Rambo thing, but one of my best tests, and again, I'm not sure how this color is coming up, but you want to pick something that has a little bit of nap to it, a little bit of fuzz. But the color has to be a color that you cannot readily identify. Now, I'm not saying it's going to stump you for any length of time, but if I ask you, what color is this? If you can't immediately say, oh, that's red, or that's blue, or that's green, that's probably a good color. If you look at this and you go, well, that's it's a good color. Or that's sort of like, if you're stumbled a little bit, you can't just pick out a color immediately, that means your brain stuttered. When your brain stutters like that, that means it doesn't have something in its card file to just pick it out. And usually when you're in the woods and you're looking for something, if your brain can't pick something immediately, it says, oh, it's not there. So when it sees you wearing this, it doesn't quickly identify it, it just goes on to something it can't identify. It doesn't have time to spend time to figure out what that is. So this is, you might see it as gray on the screen, but it actually has some tans to it, something like that. Like if I ask you what color is the coat of a deer? Anybody see a deer out there? What color is it? So I'm going to type it in quick. I've got time.
Adam's joined us.
Adam, what color is the coat of a deer? Fur of a deer?
Wendy says beige, black, and white. Adam says hunter orange.
Hunter orange. Adam.
James says brownish olive.
Brownish olive.
Dave Nichols says depends on the season.
Very good. Dave. Dave's with us. Dave, I need to call you. See, we need to catch up on about 4 years of stuff. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Well, the good thing is I get to say you're all right. If you ever look close with a magnifying glass, yes, Whitney, you'll find beige, black, white, tan. You'll find all crazy colors in there, especially with a magnifying glass. But when you look at it, it looks kind of a tannish color. Only one you probably won't find is Adam's Hunter Orange, but you never know. But it'll all blend together. That's what makes it so good. And Dave is absolutely right. They'll change for darker color, and that's what makes it amazing. They'll just blend in. This color is, and if there was a dark maroon in here, a little bit of maroon someplace in here, this is awesome at dusk. You wear this at dusk with a little bit of maroon, or if this was all maroon, the dark red, the deep red, the old hunter red of the 1920s, this will just disappear in the woods. And I mean, you're thinking purple, how could that disappear in the woods? It does, but it has to be at dusk. Any other time, not so good. Or sunrise. So this purple is a great color. And again, you wouldn't look like you're Mr. Rambo at all wearing this. I think my wife is real good at camouflage. There, what color is this? Somebody. Exactly. It's sort of, you could say it's green, but really, what color green? Well, this would be fantastic. It has so many colors of green in it, you couldn't pick it out right away. So this would be great. Again, it goes around your neck, but if I have stuff on me of that color, what's the biggest thing that's white that doesn't blend into anything? My face. So if this was around my neck as a scarf, this would be a great face mask, head mask. And it would make a very nice scarf which doesn't look at all camouflage, Rambo, doesn't look out of place at Walmart or a restaurant or any place else. Yet I can go in the woods and disappear. The last thing I want to tell you is the pattern. Now this is the old military pattern, and the colors are good, except there's one blatant thing wrong with this. And I know the Army used it for years. It's the edges. There are hard edges between the colors. You don't want hard edges. Colors are good, pattern's good. Now it doesn't have a nap, and using this cotton, there could be a little bit of shine to it, which is another downfall. But the worst thing I see are the hard edges. I always threaten to get one of those small airbrushes they use for painting, the real nice pictures, and just try to get this and just paint the edges to blend the two colors together just somewhat so they wouldn't be this hard. So again, this you would think, oh, this is camouflage, this is great for the woods. It's really not. There's something much, much better, and this happens to be King of the Mountain. It's a brand name, it's very expensive, but there's other knockoffs you can get. Now, this is made of wool, so it has a little bit of nap to it. It's kind of, not a lot, but enough to give it, or let your eye kind of see it as a 3D effect. And because it's wool, the edges aren't solid. And again, those of you, you'll see me wearing this in our classes, especially in the spring and fall. You'll walk 20 feet into some brush and you'll disappear, especially if you crouch down. This is some of the best camouflage I've come across, just because the colors are muted and the edges are just a little bit blurred. So when you're looking for camouflage stuff, make sure you're looking for things that have a blurred edge, and if it has a little bit of fuzz to it, a little bit of nap to it, that's what you're going to want to do. So if I lay down in the woods, threw a couple sticks over me, you all but disappear.
Yeah, Adam agrees with you that sharp edges stick out to our eyes.
Yeah. And the shamags are great. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's what the Middle Eastern people wear, the big shawls, and they have, probably 20, 30 ways to tie them, and they can be headgear, they can be over your face, they can be a lot of things. They'll cut the wind down fairly well. They're very useful for keeping you warm. So you have something like this on, a shamag for your face, and you're pretty much set. But anybody else have anything to add? I know you guys, I know Adam and James and have taken enough classes, they probably have a lot of camouflage tricks up their sleeves. The best thing I found for face camouflage and body camouflage is mud and charcoal. I know in our escape evasion class, we'll have people bring in some of their best camouflage, and people have brought in, woodland camo, real tree camo and stuff, and they work great under a certain situation. But you put them in a different background, what you're wearing has to match the background. Like right now, if I had brick on me, you wouldn't see me. But the moment I move to a painted background, I'd stick out. So it seems like the mud and the charcoal seems to blend in almost anywhere you go.
Adam says mud is the way to go, hands down.
Hands down. It works. It just works. But, so what else? Like I said, our homesteading class, everybody made soap, everybody learned how to can. We're going to be doing some things outside, so I definitely want to get some ideas from you. I would be appreciative. What would you like to see outside us doing? I was going to do a new style of rocket stove you can do with some simple bricks you can get from Lowe's or Home Depot. We're going to do some short videos on plants, no more than like 4 minutes long. We're going to post them on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and put in Midwest Native Skills, you'll come up with our YouTube channel. You'll know it's our channel. We have the bow drill logo on it. And what we've been doing is Cheryl's been taking our Facebook Lives and kind of editing them down a little bit and putting some narrative on there and putting them on our YouTube channel. So if you have some friends and you thought, hey, this was a good Facebook Live, she's tightened them up a little bit, put some subtitles on there, and so if your friends might want to watch a little shortened version with a little more detail, our YouTube channel might be something you might want to tell them about. But we're going to be doing short plant videos just to get your interest up on some plants. But if you're interested in some outdoor topics, because I'm going to get outside as soon as we can, but we need a little more light outside.
So Adam suggested after you apply the mud, if you roll in a little bit of debris, it causes a 3D effect because you're picking up leaves and small sticks.
Awesome. awesome tip.
That tip's worth its weight in gold. Yep. Especially leaves. Yep. That tip Adam just gave you guys is what people take years to learn. He just gave you a gem there. That's a secret that the Apache used, and that's a real good tip. Oh, by the way, when you're actually in a serious situation, you're just not doing your face. You're doing your inside of your ears, you're doing your eyes, you're doing inside of your mouth, you're doing both sides of your hands, you're doing the crack of your butt. You get mud everywhere. There's nothing that's not mud. And wood ash. You want to use the black wood ash, you don't want to use the white wood ash. The white wood ash, first of all, it's not going to really add too much to your color, but it also has sodium hydroxide in it. And for those of you that didn't do well in chemistry, sodium hydroxide goes by another name, lye. We used it to make our soap. And when you mix lye and water, it becomes very hot very quickly. Hot enough to burn your skin. So if you put this white wood ash, which has sodium hydroxide or lye in it, and you start sweating, that's water, you're mixing the lye with water on your skin, you could get burns. Probably not worse than first degree burns, but they still will be burns. So you don't want to put the white wood ash on. You want to stick with the black stuff. Anyone else? Well, that's it. I'm trying to think what else Wendy told us about. We talked about
Wendy's posted links to the classes.
Okay, so we did the bug out class, we did the week-long class, we're going to put up another edible medicinal plant class, we talked about the short videos, asked you guys to tell me what other things you want us to do on Facebook Lives. That's about it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with a topic that you wrote in and told me you want to hear about. So, have a good Easter, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.